Well, I want to welcome everyone to, thank you for joining the Creating Your Inspired Life journey. This is a series that I'm doing, just interviewing friends and associates and people that are living a truly inspired life. And today, I'm really great to have my friend Satyen Raja here with us, and he's a transcendental leader, mentor, and CEOs, and he's also the founder of WarriorSage training. So welcome, Satyen.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah. So what we're looking at today is just the whole process of personal growth. It's something that we're so intimately involved in, and watching and supporting others and joining and enjoying. I kind of want to just break it down for them so that they can maybe understand it. And maybe that'll be good for us because we take it for granted so much. So I guess I'd like to start out with, what are we capable of? You know, when somebody comes to you and they're kind of lost in their fear or busy monkey mind or whatever, what do you support them in understanding that they're capable of?
Well, you know, I was just in a coaching session with the CEOs that I mentor, and what was interesting was we were working on what is our dharma, as they say in the Indian traditions. What is our path of truth, our walk of life, what's ours to do and what's not ours to do, and then discovering that and aligning that. And so, you know, to me, this is the path of growth, is to discover what's ours to do, what's ours not to do, and to discern those, and then to gently, and sometimes if need be, valiantly move into the path of what's ours to do. And to the degree of your risk tolerance, either absolutely discard what's not ours to do and just let it go with full abandonment and total trust, which usually works out, but the path of growth is interesting, Ron, as you know, is a mystery. All we know is that there's going to be something that feels good ultimately, or is pointed to as being the ultimate good, and we can only have faith that we're moving towards it. And I think we're in a time where that is beyond a choice now, but it's a calling arising in all of us.
Yeah, I certainly get that. I certainly, how I play with that is, you know, it feels like I have to do the deeper work with them initially for a couple of months, but then those veils of fear and distraction fall away, and they're able to very clearly see their highest intention. And from that, that's like their compass heading in life from then on. And it's like, oh, that's where I'm going. That's what's important to me. Everything, all aspects of my life come into alignment with that. If it doesn't support my highest intention, I let it go. If it does, then I integrate it in. And then, you know, maybe the next, and this is more probably in alignment with what you're talking about, is your greatest purpose is what you're doing in life to move you towards that highest intention. Yeah. So yeah, so we're right on target, not surprisingly in agreement on that.
It's like a being thing, right? There's an awakening to being who we are without having to have any movement or directionality. It's a sense of belonging to every moment, and that doesn't have any emotional component, but just a easeful, I am here and I am, and a type of acceptance. And I believe also there can be a phase when that energy of self is more active and wants to evolve in the world as a person, as an individual, as some form of leader, servant, some higher model of the self we're operating at.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it in my work, you know, initially they're of course coming in with a kind of a focus on self, but and a definition of self of this body, this mind. And as they continue to heal and grow, of course, that definition of self begins to be not only this self, but other, and that other continues, you know, as their level of consciousness shifts. that otherness expands, into the world, into the universe, without limit. I guess a question I've never talked to you about this. What do you feel people are most at the effect of? People come to me and they're all, running into something. They always want something more. So what do you feel they're at the effect of?
I think from my experience, it's we have negative beliefs that we've picked up,
Mhm.
right? That have become our conditioning. We've heard this in many ways. Many of us have heard this,
Mhm.
but I found it absolutely true that what we believe in, if we believe we are meant to be small, then that'll put a cap on us. If we're meant to be big, it'll create some distortion in us. But if we're just meant to be ourselves, then there's a naturalness that flowers. So I think that is an essential piece. Another thing that I've discovered, in my work is hidden family dynamics, like hidden family loyalties.
Right.
Because my father and mother struggled, I need to struggle. Because I came from this generation, and I need to prove to whatever generation, whether it's conscious or just in the field of being, karmically. That's a subtle but very potent influencer to why we're even driven to whatever. I think it's really worth looking at.
Yeah, I found years ago, I said it was in Switzerland and here, and I kind of said, okay, I was teaching meditation and had my psychology practice, and I go, I have an idea. Instead of trying to slow or stop thought, quiet the mind, why don't we ask what's creating the noise? instead of fixing all the neuroses, let's find out, well, what's creating them. And it kind of came down to this little nut that said, when we're born, we need to reach outside of ourselves to get acceptance and love, to get nurturing. I mean, we have to say, Mom, take care of me. And that's a very natural thing. But unfortunately, it feels like that looking outside of ourselves becomes our pattern and way of life. And so what I started seeing was, well, what's most important to us? And of course, I've asked this all over the world. And I go, what's the most important to a child? And it's love. And they want unconditional love more than anything else. Yes. Well, what did you do to get it? So it's almost like in a quick overview, it's like people are coming in with that old program of looking outside of themselves to get love, and they all have, their own way and methodology of doing that. So the healing work in the beginning is really about getting them to heal sufficiently so that they're looking within for that love, and learning to love and unconditionally accept and love themselves. But yeah, I see a complete parallel with that. And
I love what you're sharing about that, because if we seek what we want in the world coming from a lack of love within ourselves, even if we attain something temporarily, it'll fall from our hands like sand, because it's based on, it was inspired by lack, and therefore the end result will be a mirage. Might look full, but will end up being empty. But so this idea, what you're sharing, is reclaiming self-love. I'm with you. I think it's essential for all of us. And, as leaders, I think it's valuable to have that, so that when we have self-love within ourselves, we can love our teams, our clients. We don't have to look at them as chattel or collateral or units of workforce. We can have a deeper relationship with others, which is it just continues that love in a real way.
I'm not sure I've been unfortunate, but I've watched through my life, and I've been intimately connected with really high-level leaders in spirituality and politics and business, who are just, they're making millions, billions, they're really doing well. And what I started watching was they would rise to a certain level and everything would crumble. I mean, they'd lose it all. People would die, people would go to jail, people, so it wasn't just significant, little things getting in the way. It really disassembled lives. And I started looking at that, and what I saw is they were really good at creating the platform, but there was no foundation.
Yes.
And that's when I know that we both work with high-level folks, but that became so important to me, that you've got to create that foundation of self-acceptance and love and bigger vision before you build that platform, because otherwise it's on sand and it'll collapse for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is why we have the pyramids here, you know, thousands of years later.
Right.
They
On sand.
got a huge base, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I believe that part of our societal imprint of get rich fast or move forward or crush it, or this continuing striving to push the numbers harder, wider. That's great if one has passion for growing business. Nothing wrong in that, but it can self-destruct, and we've seen this, as you shared.
Yeah.
And you know what I've seen is you know, using the yogic model from the yogic philosophy. As we grow in leadership, we have more prana, more energy, more life force.
Right.
We have more power of influence, more power of word in our creation. It just happens as we take more self-responsibility and create more. And the warnings the yogis give us are in the realm of sex, power, and money. That they don't say there's anything wrong with it or evil or but they invite us to have enlightenment and to look at where we need to heal in those realms regarding our money relationships, our power relationships, our sexuality relationships, because we've seen leaders fall from grace. I've had my bullshit happen, and it's like, the way I akin it is like we can have an aneurysm where there's the weakest lining in our vessels. So if our energy vessels, there's a weakness in our psychology because we didn't get love and intimacy, or we're not having it at home, or the relationships are being challenged and the intimacy is not being evoked, and so one might seek it elsewhere. As an example, this we see in leadership, and these we can try to deal with them on the outside, but when we deal them on the inside, that's when it truly changes.
Yeah. You've got to do that inner journey to really shift and reconnect with yourself and accept and love yourself. I mean, you know, even to gain access to whole brain thinking, you have to begin with that inner acceptance so that you can then begin to shift your mindset so you can create integrated whole brain thinking with the left and right, and you know, really working as a team, so your forebrain comes into play rather than your overreactive emotional amygdala is running the show. And yeah, that just seems to be the key, is that inner journey. And when somebody's willing to do that rather than chase the next shiny object, that's a life-changing moment. I've got a point, and I really haven't talked to you about this. It's like, how do you think, what's the best way for people to move beyond those limitations, those challenges? You know, those areas when they finally acknowledge that there's some suffering going on. What's the best way for them to move beyond that?
From my experience, the thirst has to be strong enough.
Yeah.
Even if we're realizing we're at the beginning stages or deep in the stage of recognizing I'm not happy, there's something totally disharmonious about some aspect of my life, or I want my life to be more at peace, more at ease. You're no longer looking or can find as much appeasement from the material plane, and your soul's yearning for a type of something deeper, something more, a richer meaning to life, right? When that happens, still we can be suffering by not acting on it, and still hoard and distract with whatever, all the forms of distractions there are, right? All the forms of shallow, temporary forms, right? Of trying to get that real meaning. So what I urge everyone to look at, you know, and who are on that path is, are you thirsty enough to actually do the work to grow? You got to get there first. And if you do, then people, of course, like you, Ron, can guide them into great depths. You know, you're a master of what you do. You guide people to to their essential self, like in very profound ways. And as we've shared, and I know about how you've served people grow companies like massively by the most unexpected internal awakening, right?
Right. Right.
And we don't look at those as interrelated, but nowadays I don't think we can keep them separate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So the first step is recognizing that our internal state of being, our inner journey, is the outer journey. There's no difference. And to start shifting attention from gaining to growing.
Cool. Yeah, I've looked at this in a lot of ways. I, as you probably know, come from a very meditative background, and so mindfulness and sitting on the hill in the cave for a lifetime or two, looking at everything that comes up and moving, breathing into it and breathing through it is a viable way to go. I really do feel that that's a viable way to go. But what I started looking at is, yeah, but people aren't going to do that. They don't have the time, they don't have the commitment, whatever it is. And so I started looking for what I would call shortcuts. And it came to me, and I'm kind of checking in with you on how you feel about this. It came to me that the quickest way to get past those things were to really acknowledge and fully express and let go of that emotional backlog. Think in terms of analogy like being a boater. You're a lovely sailboat. You're capable of going anywhere in the world, except for you notice in some point in your life that you're kind of sailing in a circle, maybe going across it or around it, but you're at the effect of something that's keeping you in this limited framework. And at some point you look off the stern and see, oh, there's an anchor line there. And that's going down to some big anchor. And, we don't want to drag the big anchor up and ruin the boat or anything. It's really looking at that line is really made up of all the unacknowledged, unexpressed emotional backlog that holds us to those past events. We just weren't able to deal with them when we were younger. We just didn't have the help or the wisdom to deal with it. But now we do, and we have the guidance also. And so it's an acknowledging, expressing, releasing that line begins to dissolve so we can sail off and really fulfill our life. But so I'm recognizing those two ways. What do you think about that?
I use the archetypes of the warrior and sage, as those are very close to me from the martial art tradition. Yeah. And the warrior is that energetic of moving towards with intentionality. And the sage is the surrendering and allowing and receiving. And so my experience is it's great to have the wholeness. So if we're really driven and moving forward and intentional, it's very healthy to practice more surrender, allowing ourselves to be more and to feel the discomfort of non-doing at first. Let that wind out. And it's like the way I look at it is, those old-fashioned clocks, not even that old, but where you wound them up, right? And then they take days or whatever to unwind slowly because there's a coil unwinding. And then finally, only after a few days, it'll come to cessation of movement. But it's the same way. Just because we stop winding ourselves up doesn't mean that we're wound down. We need to be in the beingness, which I believe is more of what we could use right now. Many of us have done the rah. We've done the excesses of willpower, and there's benefits of willpower, but there's no benefits in overexertion. There's no benefits in valiance that's self-destructive. And so I believe the sage is where, what I'm sharing about now. It's good to have that warrior. It's good, especially in your younger years, to develop that and to have that, right, as your backbone. Right? But I believe the sagely, which is really, establishing wisdom as our highest priority. Having a life where wisdom becomes your yearning, your path, your walk, and how that wisdom comes to you will always be infinite and miraculous and eternal, right? But having that as, hey, that becomes more precious than anything of the world.
Indeed, yeah. That kindness and compassion, not only towards yourself, but to others, to life, that comes into play. And And for me, the breath is a core part of my work. It's just, filters through every athlete. And I remember in a workshop in Switzerland, because there would be people from various countries, and my associates were saying, now, if you don't understand what Ron said, he probably said breathe. And I thought about it and I go, yeah, that's probably all that I would be saying. But I see that that compassion, that kindness really comes from when we are breathing. If we're not breathing, we're not present. If we're not breathing, we're not mindful. If we're not breathing, we're not coming from a place of kindness and compassion, again, for ourselves and others. So I just, that's the tool, the key to helping people heal, helping people grow, helping people, to me, it's just like you can use your breath to go through like an elevator, any state of consciousness, from healing the depths of your darkness to the heights of enlightenment, and really merging with the infinite. So, yeah. So I guess I'd like to kind of swing it back to, what do you feel we're really capable of?
Whatever we feel we're capable of.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it is. It's like, there's a quote that I like: the only person you're destined to be is the person you decide to become. I think Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, and it's true. It's really true that it's what do you have the courage to access from yourself. And it's, yeah, where are you with this? It's like, I find that I can control my health. I can control my level of intelligence. I can control my level of consciousness. And so it's like, well, what level do I want to play on? Yeah. And choosing that and really recognizing, okay, yeah, so I can breathe myself into this level, but there's certain things I can't do, or desires and fears that are going to dissipate in that level. Am I comfortable with that? Is that okay? And if so, what level of consciousness do I want to live on? Who do I want to be? If you recognize what you want, then it's a matter of, well, what level of consciousness do I need to live on to create and experience that? And it's just, go ahead.
I was saying, one of the ways I see it is that we have like stages of our evolutionary karma. So I was a young fellow. It was a dream to be a Kung Fu teacher. It was so legendary beyond even my imagination.
Yeah.
I started as a teen and worked my way up. And then one day I was an apprentice instructor years later. And then it took me, like a long time, but I became an instructor. So there was the wow of that. The unimaginable was attained, but it started from humble roots. And then, but a few years into that, 10 years into that, I was like, I've got that. And then I moved into something new. So I believe we have stages, and now they're even more rapid, where we have a mission, a vision, a fulfillment. It feels, it's like the gas tank. We use all the evolutionary units of that phase of our life. It could be in 1 week. It could be in 1 month. It could be in a decade. And then there's an empty phase in between where, what are we meant to do? How are we meant to do? We may feel disillusioned. We can do what we can do with our eyes closed with ease because we've mastered it, but our soul is yearning for its next evolutionary expansion. I believe it's wise to listen to that, or we stay stagnant. Even we might be worldly successful, being and doing what we can, the soul will be thirsty for new experiences and deeper vistas of being and deeper love. And once something is no longer deeply mysterious, our soul yearns for the mysterious even more.
Yeah, well said, nicely said. Yeah, I watch people sort of segment their life. It's like stair-stepping up their life, and I'm supporting them in, first of all, your spiritual life and your business life and your family life, they are not separate. They're the same life, but it's you. And your life is going to constantly change. And it's like the lobster whose shell grows too small, maybe once a year. So they have to be vulnerable. They have to go down into that cave and shed that shell and grow the new one so they can evolve into it. It's like, if I could just support people in living a life where they're evolving, where they're evolving into what is possible, what they're capable of, rather than one that's kind of, oh, I can't wait till this, or I can't wait till that, or, I watch men, especially men, they're retiring, and all the statistics show that they're retiring, and within 24 months, they're dead because they've lost all focus, they've lost all intention. And that doesn't seem like a good retirement. I'm well past retirement age. And when people say, are you going to retire? I go, why would I do that? There's so much adventure ahead. I'm kind of just a guide and helping other people on, pathways that I've traveled extensively. But yeah, I think you have to just fall in love with life and let it be a path of self-discovery, not to a particular point, but onward. Yeah.
Beautiful.
There you go. All right. So, well, thank you, Satyen, for being here with me. I'm just, yeah, precious. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I'm just so grateful, for our friendship. And, I see you as an elder, a mentor, someone that I can learn. And I do receive so much from your beingness. You have ways of dropping one sentence that just rearranges my reality. And so thank you and for your lifetime of dedication. And I'm so honored that you invited me today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today too. Good. All right. Well, I want to do a couple things here. If you're drawn to connect with us, go to ronstotts.com and you can set up an inspiring life session, and we can chat about where you are and where you want to be and what you need to do to create your inspiring life. And I guess I would leave you with a quote, and that is, what I'm going to have to read it. What we fear doing the most is usually what we most need to do. And that is, using your fear not as a stop sign, but as a guide, something that you breathe into rather than hold your breath and retract from. And I think it'll make all the difference in your life. And so thank you so much again, Satyen, for being here. You're just a precious friend, and I can't wait till this COVID stuff's out of the way so we can hang out more. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope there was some little nuggets in there that will serve you in your life and help this planet of ours evolve into a more safe, secure, and supportive place for us all. Thank you.